Welcome back, everybody, to Iron Fist. Apologies for the delays, but I'm pretty sure we're good to go now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here having this conversation. We're live once again from the Red Bull Sphere in London, and our next matchup in winner's bracket, Maxter versus Garpy, is finally good to go. Once again, thank you for your patience, but honestly, I don't want to be on the camera for too long. We want to get straight into the gameplay, so we'll throw it over to our casters to break down the picks and the bans.
Yes, our next matchup is going to be Garpy versus Maxter. And now this is definitely going to be an interesting one in itself. We've been talking about it so much in the pre-show and introduction and everything like that. For Maxter, first time we're going to witness him finally in a studio environment and find out exactly what he's capable of.
Yeah, interesting. We spoke about it a lot before, you know, even he has to adjust everything going into this stage. So that's going to be super interesting. I'm also really just excited to see Garpy get smashed. We gotta love that. Yeah, the British Bulldog punching bag. But in all seriousness, we know what Garpy brings to the table. He's always finds a way to do really good, but also throw it away. So I hope he doesn't make that mistake in his hometown. Well, not quite his hometown, but at least his home country. But I'm also really excited to see what Maxter brings to the table. So if we do have those picks and bans, again, let's just jump into those and actually get towards the game, because we've been faffing around for a little bit too long. Yeah,
completely agree. And what you said about Garpy as well, you know, he's on home soil, he's on his home turf. So he's got no excuses coming into this. And I've already noticed some very interesting picks looking at this so far. Exile have been the first map for Garpy. Now, the reason why I'm quite curious about that, because I always felt like Maxter, for him, it's one of his go-to maps, like especially depending on the circumstances of the bans. But the fact that he gets Exile straight away, coming complain, got the Ranger, of course, versus the Anarchy, we're going to Ruins, and then straight after that will be Awoken. So some interesting maps here between these two.
Yeah, we've got a Scale Bearer coming out from Garpy on Ruins, so I'm actually liking the pick. First one of the day, and the second set. Up against the Galena, that's not too bad. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think Exile was actually picked by Maxter because Garpy got the champion ban. So that is, as we know in the past, one of Maxter's stronger maps. Yeah, I mean, it depends how he plays it, right? We know what Maxter brings to the table. We go super aggressive. He comes out. He is playing over on that range as well. I do like the Anarchy pick coming out in response to that. Again, you want to go toe-to-toe with the pace. You have the inject, very good on Exile. So it's going to be nice. We know Garpy plays a pretty good Anarchy at the best of times. So let's see.
Yeah, let's see indeed, as it's going to be another matchup in the winners bracket round one. If you're just joining us, it is a best of three. This is going to be the first map between these two juggernauts here. But it's like I said, with Garpy, you know, he does bring a lot of flair sometimes on the odd occasion, but like you said, throws it away, just like pretty much like it's nothing. But hopefully for his case, it won't be that tail this time round. And, you know, I call him the Rocket Man for a reason. Literally, you know, use it for its defensive purposes so well on, you know, numerous occasions. We're going to see it already from the get-go here. And he's already got the weapons in his arsenal, just literally just playing around to see exactly what shenanigans Maxter is going to be up to here. And already, though, just on the back foot, hits the first rail here, hits the second straight away, and he's going to go for the third. That's a great start from Garpy.
Garpy out Maxter. Coming in aggressively with that nail gun. He's going to rocket jump up. He doesn't steal it away, though. He bounces off the head of Maxter. Nearly falls all the way down, but a lovely connecting rocket through the TP, and Garpy has come to play.
He certainly has. This is the sort of start you'd expect from Maxter, isn't it? But Maxter does, you know, get the first frag on the board for himself, at least to give him a bit of confidence boost after the, I wouldn't say a dreadful start. It's just literally Garpy just came out swinging with those 3 back-to-back rails, and this is this kind of solid start you'd need against someone like Maxter, just taking his aim duels on, just hitting everything you can see. And it's nice to see that Garpy right now. We've known that on the odd occasion at some events, sometimes he can be very hit and miss, especially with his aim. His movement can be quite good. It can be quite solid due to the amount of dueling experience he's had in the past. But his aim can be a bit hit and miss depending on the circumstances. But at least that way now, he's had a very good start, especially with those aim duels.
I completely agree. And it can be erratic. What he's good at is finding opportunities to just abuse hit scan. It's not got the best aim in the world, but it's solid, and that's the point. He picks these situations sometimes wisely, but off the bat, as you said, connecting with those 3 rails, we'll see what Maxter's made of. If he's not the one that's hitting, again, does he have that plan B? It's not something we've seen a lot of in the past, because he's generally the one that sets the tempo and abuses the aim.
I think one of the weaknesses that Garpy can definitely try and capitalize on is the fact that on the odd occasion on Exile we've seen with Maxter, he has missed a few timings of the items in the past, and sometimes also messed up in terms of his ammo management, but Maxter has tied things up here. Of course, now Garpy on the back foot, just picking up the shoddy, picking up the LG straight afterwards, just to get a bit of leverage here from the get-go on Spawn, but the LG duel coming now, and depending on who's going to win that engagement here, 10 HP left. He's still somehow alive, but Maxter finally takes him down.
He does indeed. Chuckles away with not a lot of health whatsoever. And this is where the vulnerability of the Anarchy comes in. Obviously, the lighter stack as a whole, Maxter abusing that, but also the fact that once you spawn, you don't have that starting stack. You have to play a bit safer to get back into the game, to get back into the map.
And this is the problem. Sometimes the inject just isn't enough, and considering the circumstances he's in at the moment. And Maxter, after those fabulous rows, you could say, from Garpy earlier on, just wasn't phased by it. He was just like, okay, you know, he may have got a little bit lucky there and just shrugged it off, really. And now already Maxter's directly underneath Garpy. Garpy's diving straight down here, but Garpy's definitely going to make a failed attempt to try and contest that heavy. Did a best visibility. Maxter does miss that rail, though. Waits for him to go for the telly. Just barely misses that. Just Garpy just delaying the push slightly, going for the telly. And now just directly underneath him, trying to contest that mega.
A little bit of frustration coming out from Maxter because he's, I think, missing shots at this point in time he would traditionally want to hit. Lovely tracing with the LG there. Just bullying Garpy ahead of the next round of the items. Did let him get away with the mega relatively unscathed to that point. So that was a crucial push by Maxter. And now Garpy's on the ropes. We saw the inject come out as well. So that won't be up for the next fight. But he also doesn't have a lot of armor to work with. And that rail is critical. Somehow gets it around the corner. Inject gets used once again. Must have come off cooldown just off the fight there. And once again, the rails from Maxter are good. And Garpy's in a world of pain.
He certainly is. It's been like that the last couple of minutes. You know, had a dream start and now things have turned around. Great rail again here from Maxter. Just added more pain here towards Garpy's previous lead, and it's literally just not had it back since. Those two frags were fantastic. Don't get me wrong, only from Garpy, but now Maxter's feeling his stride, feeling his groove here as he's now looking to wait for Garpy to try and challenge him for that mega, but nothing as of yet. Just biding his time once again. Been pretty patient with us. Again, another fabulous rail from Maxter, just making matters worse so far for Garpy in this matchup.
Yeah, the scoreline's beginning to mount. The fast start of Garpy's come to nothing as Maxter slowed the pace down and using the orb so effectively in combat situations. And Garpy is taking the riskier play here and closing the gap, and we've seen exactly why it's risky. That's another risky one. Somehow Maxter doesn't have the ammo to finish off his opponent, but Garpy doesn't do any damage anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
And didn't get sync aired either, so a little bit lucky there. Been waiting to say that for such a long time. It's been a while here, Dan, and already Garpy taken down once again. Turned into the Maxter show as this matchup has escalated very quickly here in Maxter's hands. Complete role reversal from what we saw in that first minute, and now just adding it to the tally.
What I'm liking about Maxter is just a slightly more tempered playstyle than we saw. Garpy's suicide.
There we go.
Hello.
It was overdue, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure it was. It wasn't even forced either. That was just a mishap of movement. And I think Garpy wants to come join us on the caster desk. So just done at this point. 12-1, 13-1. I mean, the towel has to be going in sometime soon. Maxter's now beginning to fly around the map. Going to make his way back towards this heavy. Maxter's sitting on a casual 550 FPS. 600? What? Is that even possible? Could see into the future.
Yeah, maybe he can. We never know here, Dan. At this rate, the way he's been playing at the moment, he just doesn't seem to be bothered. Just goes unlimited, go full throttle here, and Maxter now just not letting up at all. Just all gas, no brake here for Maxter. And this would be a great way to start things off. And again, just adding another one to the tally. 4 minutes left here, and yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say this is going to be a first map going in favour of Maxter.
How did he not die there? I don't know how Garpy got away with Merge just then, and does manage to get back into this game. But 50-2, I mean, this is over, Lethal. I mean, we both know this is over. Maxter, beyond the weirdest of situations, will not be losing map 1, which is Exile. Again, said it's his pick. We're going to be moving on to Ruins in the next 3 minutes. Can stabilize. He has the scale bearer over on Garpy, so a much bigger stack to work with where you can make these pushes work for you. And I said in the intro, like, off the bat, Garpy going toe-to-toe and abusing the stack, or kind of the bigger stack he had at the time, and the inject was good. But as soon as you lose that control, you lose that momentum, you have to stabilize. You have to get back onto the map, pick up those light armors, pick up the range weapons, and chip away at your opponent. That's what Garpy just didn't do. He tried to force fight after fight after fight, but Maxter had his number, and he had the burst damage as well, and that was key. We saw a number of times him using that orb to maximum effectiveness.
It's just incredible how things just changed dramatically after that first minute. It was a little bit of a shame here, but Garpy's still trying to find himself to get back in it. But yeah, it's like he said, it's pretty much said and done here at this point. 15-2. This is definitely not the scoreline we anticipated. The trade comes out, even though Garpy does suicide in that little scuffle. And now Maxter. What I love about Maxter as well is always holding that high rocket ground. At least get the angles both on the Mega and the Heavy, depending on exactly which item's going to come up first. And Maxter's already taken a huge chunk of damage already, trying to back away if he can. And Garpy now just trying to keep this as competitive as possible, even though the scoreline says completely different at the moment. With a couple of minutes, so great rockets again from Maxter. And this is exactly what we want to see from Maxter as well. You would have thought that with most players, especially the start that Garpy had, they'd be a little bit deflated like from the get-go, and Garpy would just ride that momentum. But Maxter just turned it on its head straight away.
Yeah, it's just one of those you just got to tip your hat to Garpy and say, okay, I see what you're doing here. And if that's the way it's going, you just have to be a little bit more careful. Play the angle smarter. Don't take those rail Jews. You are the one that has to retreat a little bit and wait for him to make a mistake, make an overextension. And that's exactly what Garpy did. And soon as Maxter had an inch, he's taken a mile. 17-3, and as you said, after that start with Garpy, you wouldn't have envisaged this type of a mauling. So Maxter's definitely come to play at this event.
Yeah, it certainly has been. He has been boot camping here in the UK for the last week just to make sure he's prepared and ready to compete at his first event here in the studio environment. The rails are just consistently hitting across the board. Struggling with the strafe a little bit from Garpy, but nothing a shotgun won't stop us. Already now just a minute left remaining. He's going to hit the 20 here at this point, Dan.
I mean, that was a great point you just raised. The effectiveness of the shotgun. I think almost every frag has been followed up with either an orb or a shotgun, just looking for that burst damage, and it's just efficiency. And it's just, yeah, some of those peak rails have been fantastic as well.
Yeah, a lot of flare coming out again. A few flicks here and there as well, just to really give us some entertaining value. 21-3 now, 30 seconds left. Looking to go for the 22, maybe even the 23 mark if he can squeeze it in, if he can. Gives Garpy the heavies, and that might not happen, but yeah, just him beyond shots so far. And I think this is the one thing we were contemplating, whether Max is going to play the same as he does online in this kind of environment, or things may change up a little bit here. But it looks like it's, what we kind of predicted. He's a very, comfortable player. We've obviously spoke to him a little bit previously, and he seems to be very confident, very comfortable. Doesn't seem to be bothered at all. Even trying to go for the gauntlet as well. But it's all said and done. Even at the halfway point here, Dan, we just knew what was coming, and we knew that was going to be it.
Yeah, I think, he's look at him, so that is a cheeky little chappy right there. I'm a little bit obviously concerned with the way in which Garpy just didn't take his foot off the accelerator. He wasn't the one in control. He wasn't the one setting the tempo, and yet he was the one that just went full throttle, full throttle. And Maxter said, cool, come at me. I'm just going to let you come at me. I'm going to soak up this damage. I have a bigger stack. I'm the one playing the items, and then I have the burst potential with the orb and with the shotgun. So Garpy's game plan wasn't a real game plan. It wasn't the way he should have been playing that map. And yes, he can now do that with a scale bearer. That's the thing. He can play like that.
I think the problem is as well, it's just playing to Maxter's strengths, isn't he? Because, just getting to a straight-up fight every single time, the fact with Maxter's combat skills, they are ridiculously strong. The amount of times we've seen it time and time, not just with the rail, just all the weaponry in his arsenal. And it's been a serious issue here, and Garpy needs to play a bit more of a methodical approach and just try and keep on guard, just hold the angles, keep his distance as well, just to make sure, just to keep him at bay and just not get himself in a lot of trouble. But we saw that on numerous different times here. But we're going to look at the picks and bans for you guys, just to literally recuperate and see exactly what is coming up next for the next potential copper maps, considering the circumstances. As we're going straight to runes, as you rightly said, down with a scale bearer. So, like you said, if he does want to take those fights, he can do. Of course, he needs to keep those totems in check once again.
Yeah, I'm going to flip these. I think, unfortunately, we've got the picks and bans the wrong way around, just because we saw the Garpy anarchy. So this actually changes the conversation we've just had, in that I'm now expecting Maxter to be on the scale bearer. Which is even more of a problem. We know, but saying that, we know that Galena is incredibly strong on Ruins. We know that if she can get that overstack, she becomes powerful. Some people favor her as the ultimate champion on there. We've seen people like Base and Cooler in the past, picking her time and time and time again. But we also know Maxter knows how to play a scale bearer. He's pretty much been the innovator on the scale bearer. So if that's the way it's going to go, just retract the conversation about running a Maxter. I would not run a Maxter scale bearer. That scares me.
Yeah, that would probably scare the life out of anyone pretty much, Dan, wouldn't it? So you wake up in a cold sweat thinking about it, wouldn't you?
I mean, cold sweat, happy sweat, I don't really know which one it is. I'm the one who has to watch this now. I don't have to experience the pain anymore. Yeah,
it could be another nightmare here for Garpy. It just depends. Like, you know, a lot of people play Galena differently on runes, of course. Some people use it just of areas information. Some people do it for the overstack, of course. And you normally find, you know, inklings of information in terms of how and whereabouts those totems are. So if you see, of course, a Galena playing kind of in the same routes and the same spots, then, you know, that's the kind of information which Maxter desperately requires in order to try and figure something out. But also at the same time, he can use those totems to cover himself for the heavy, just to cover certain areas. It's very difficult. And also at the same time, it may force Max to go into places like the courtyard where there's literally no way out, and to purposely put him there if he's weak or just try and get away.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I mean, in this map in particular, obviously, the use of the totems generally going to be to create that fortress down in the heavy. That's got the most amount of utility, but then you have a ball running through them and taking much no damage, and he can just clear them out the way. He doesn't care what's in his way. He doesn't care if you're in his way. He wants you to be in his way. This is where it becomes more and more challenging, and you have to use them very thoughtfully. I don't even think you want to be using for them, as you say, that information or the damage. You want to build that overstack, and you would use it as just a health funnel. That's the main resource. You don't want to be losing them, and you can't afford to lose them, because that's when you just have to be on your back foot. And I would also love to see Garpy play around the rail more. I felt he was trying to force close combat fights. He was trying to get into Maxter's face with the lightning gun. Not entirely sure why. I don't know if he was scared of the rail fights, but that's what the game plan seemed to be, and it didn't work. Definitely need to make sure you keep that Scale Bearer stack at bay in check and go from there.
Well, I hope so for his sake, because if it's the same as last time, then he's going to go into that loser bracket. I'm feeling pretty deflated considering the circumstances he was in. And I think we've witnessed that back in the QPO as well, didn't it? I was just trying to think of a play. I think it was base, or I think it might have been base, where he was very, very defensive in that heavy setup. He managed to get that overstack and just didn't really give any room for his opponents to even drop down. Even though they knew he was there, they couldn't really find any way to try and even John couldn't go on the staircases, because even when you walk down there, you're going to get discovered by the audio cues anyway, dropping down, or if he goes by the other routes, or even dropping down the jump lift. You know, there's lots of different ways here which can easily be discovered. But I remember base back then played it perfectly. It just depends what Garpy's plan is with his totems.
We'll see. The challenges as well, I think the base is the example you want to use. It depends who you go up against. He's now going up against the Scale Bearer with the bigger stack, and it's substantially faster. And this is the problem. Often if the Galena is going against a champion that isn't as quick, you know, potentially a Visor, you know, something a bit more manageable, you can play that super passive turtle mode and run away. But then the Scale Bearer will catch you up, and catch you up quickly. So you're going to have to play around your opponent. I don't think you can dominate the map against the Scale Bearer. You have to find the vulnerabilities and outsmart him and outposition him.
Yeah, and even with the ball rush, it can easily just take these items away. Like, even if he doesn't pick them up sometimes, or at least challenges for them, at least he can take it away from his opponent, so that way he doesn't really need to inflict that damage, does it? Just needs to take it away from him, just to not give him any more leverage later on. And this is the problem you see for Garpy. It depends on how unpredictable he is with these tournament placements and what he wants to do. And as soon as Maxter discovers the routes which Garpy is kind of covering in terms of his ground, then that's where it's going to cause a serious issue. So, you know, it takes a lot of planning in terms of how you're going to do it against certain opponents, for example. Like if it was someone a bit more defensive and passive, and of course a different champion entirely, then it could be a completely different story. But it's like I said, with the Scale Bearer, you know, he will just run through him. He will tank all that damage night and day and not have a care in the world. He will definitely just roam around the map to find exactly what mischief Garpy's going to be up to with those totems. And, you know, this is going to be a big play here for Garpy. It just depends on what route he wants to take, what paths he wants to cover, where he wants to place him, or if he just place him randomly anywhere, then, you know, it could swing some roundabouts, but it's not going to give him that overstack he desires.
I think I figured out what's wrong with Garpy. He uses his keyboard upside down.
No. Why is he doing that?
Is that a husband?
I might have a word with him. Like, let's see, I knew there was something all right.
Oh, what's going on? Garpy's on the Scale Bearer. I don't know what's going on with these. Our analysis just through the window. I mean, all the points stay true. We just flip who we're talking about. I've been trolled.
Yeah, I think we've been baited. We've been baited pretty hard here. So everything we just said for the last 5 minutes, ignore it, as it's going to be Garpy.
We have no idea what we're talking about because we don't get told what's going on.
Basically, yeah. So it's going to be Maxter with the game plan, of course. And yeah, but it is weird, though. I do agree with what you said, though. It seems odd that Garpy will go with a Scale and Maxter is going to be the Galena, which is a little bit strange here, but that's going to be the first frag already here for Garpy. We're still a little bit thrown off with these picks, but already though, good stuff for Garpy again, just like the last map, but he can't let things escalate, and already Maxter with the rail straight away on spawn, finishing off after that final engagement.
My point at the end there was that I said the Galena in this situation, so Maxter now needs to use the rail, and that's what we know Maxter actually wants to do. So he's actually set up very well in order to be able to abuse that stack of the Scale Bearer. On the flip side, we said that Scale Bearer can run at your opponent. I would pull that in a little bit if I'm Garpy, just because he has to respect Maxter's aim more than Maxter has to respect his aim. So it can't be fruitless. He's using the speed just to get down relatively safely. He didn't take a huge amount of damage because of it, so good timing by Garpy. We'll be back up in that 30-second realm. Going to try and pressure over on this Mega, or at least get the right timing to play around that heavy. Good initiation rocket from Garpy this time. Maxter will have to retreat from that point.
Yeah, he certainly will have to. Removes himself from the courtyard. Trying to pin Maxter down, but these rails, the totem, everything is just come into plan here for Maxter, and he still manages to hit it. Garpy looking a little bit better this time on the server compared to that last map, but it's still early days as of yet. At least with Ruins, he's got a little bit more space, a little bit more time to recuperate and recover from, you know, any fights which he may take in the long run. But that was a great round to add a little bit more, you know, insult to injury here towards Maxter, and hopefully help with Garpy's confidence as well.
Your point is he's recouping at this point. You know, yes, he got that frag, but look, Maxter knows he can just push on in aggressively because the stack from Garpy is not there. Ending up with the frag as well. Garpy clearly not happy with that, and Maxter gets himself up pretty heavy. Only one totem in play at this point in time, so hasn't got that overstack, but he's more than happy. He's actually playing positioning a lot better. He's caught Garpy off guard a couple of times already, so definitely need to see a bit more awareness coming out from Garpy's side.
We certainly do. It seems like Max is just throwing the totems all over the place at different sites here on Ruins. He hasn't really got a game plan in terms of having a path to cover defensively, and I suppose if he did, I can't really imagine Max just holding certain areas for the whole time, because he's a very, very hyper-aggressive player, and it's not really something in his nature to do. We've got one more totem, and there's a good delay as well, absolutely. So hopefully segregate it at that time enough for later on, for when Garpy does push that Mega, will cause a few issues for him.
Also going to have this overstack up now. There you go, it is there. He's not even going to use it because he realizes he's just nearly at the max capacity. Doesn't want to waste it. A bit wary, Garpy's camping down here, which he is. He knows exactly what's going on. We'll back off, having read that. Just get back up to this high ground and try and punish the exit play from Garpy. Also works his way over towards his totem if he needs it. But oh, Garpy comes bowling on through, but ends just before the item. Somehow gets it. But I thought that was not going to go to plan. Hits the rail off the spawn, that is good. But Maxter, once again, he does have that overstack up if he needs it. Garpy hasn't found the totems just yet.
Yeah, still got a little bit of time left. But it's going to cause a few issues here for Garpy in the long run, and longevity of things in this matchup. Going with the ball straight away, picks up the heavy as well. But of course, that was one of the main focuses. If he did get the frag too, that would have been just a little added bonus here to add to the tally. Good first rail, was looking for the second, but Maxter just managed to get away around that final bender in the LG room. Backing off to the courtyard now just to pick up the next light, which should be up shortly. We'll find Maxter in the long run, so it looks like it's not the engagement Maxter wants to take at all.
Really nice.
Garpy extends his lead. This is exactly what was necessary for him.
Absolutely, but the difference we're seeing here now is he's actually playing more passive on a Scale Bearer than he played on the Anarchy. Looks far more comfortable. He's also using the rail, which he did not use on Exile, and it's all paying dividends at this point. So he needs to keep this pressure up now. He's challenging the items well, and he's making those right decisions about when to be aggressive, when not to be. I know that's a cliche, but it's exactly what he needs to be doing. Make sure that Max doesn't get away with these clean pickups. He did just then. Garpy can also retreat onto this heavy.
He's been defending these islands quite well. Dropped down the totem at the same time. No, the only problem is he's available, not anymore. He's picked up the heavy, managed to stand his ground and back away. Needs to get another set of rockets. In the meantime, I'll find some ammo somewhere lingering. So now he's going to boom us straight away towards the Mega. We'll find Maxter going off on that Mega. Misses the rail, but the damage has been done. As again, that frag would have been some extra help here for Garpy. He's going to try to hit another one if he can. They will not find it. May even drop down for him at this point here. But Maxter predicts that straight away. Just using those rockets defensively, just in case Garpy does drop down. But Garpy's not going to fall for that at all. And the slightest gets round, hits the heavy though.
Yeah, that's a huge rail. That's given the door to Maxter to keep the pressure on. That previous player with the Mega was nearly perfect. If it was a quarter a second earlier, it would have been perfect. But Maxter just picked up the Mega, which was a lifesaver. Now he's on the front foot, having hit that rail. You can see how defensive Garpy was being just because of that rail. He's also looking for the totems. He's found another one. There's 2 off the map. That'll be good. That'll set Maxter back a little bit in terms of his stack. But Garpy's only really been giving him the Mega at this point, and that's crucial because it's obviously not as effective when you're playing around that overstack. You can obviously fall back and recoup, but it just limits it just slightly relative to the heavy.
Garpy now just dilly-dallying back and forth to see if he can catch Maxter off guard, but Maxter just keeping his position unknown, but we'll find him here. Seeing if Maxter will push through or not, but still, Garpy standing his ground. He's using that tripod just to feed himself some info. We'll find him down below. Stan decided to back away and get the light, but instead, yeah, does miss it in the end, which is a bit of a change of currents, but he can always go back forward or go for another one as he sees fit. Just winding around that Mega area, ready to the contest. Does have the ball rush in hand whenever he needs to use it, but that rail is not going to help at all in the slightest.
No, it's not, and you can feel the momentum shifting now. And I'm going to hark back to it. That rail down by the heavy. Ever since then, Garpy's been on the retreat. Maxter's chasing him, pressuring him. Garpy, it's coming to a matter of time unless he hits a couple of amazing shots in the next fight. Maxter's going to continue to chip away. He's got both major items under control. Garpy's been playing the lights better, but you need more than that as a heavy.
You could say Garpy's being a little bit more reactionary now, just relying on those audio cues just to stand his ground defensively. Well, similar to how base plays, considering what we've seen so far. 31 HP, he's in a world of trouble. Needs to try and get away and find anything. The light's not there. Of course, Max is just easing him away just to make matters worse so far for Garpy. 56 HP, but he will find him. It took a bit of time here, Dan, but finally managed to find it. 1 frag in it between the two. 2.5 minutes left. Plenty of time here for Maxter.
He needs to move away from, as you said, being reactionary. He needs to find a way, he needs to find a position to pressure and delay a pickup, which allows him to get back into the map. But at this point, it's all in Maxter tempo. All the moves are from Maxter. Garpy trying to use his stack to do any sort of damage to try and get back into the game. Yes, he's done a fair amount. But Maxter, once again, is on position to pick up this Mega. A couple of rails back to back. Just missed his converting one, and that's quite crucial because Garpy's going to move on down. But no, the clutch one does hit.
And I kind of felt like Garpy took a huge risk there, it didn't pay off. I think he made the assumption that Maxter wasn't going to go for the heavy after that little trickle of bolt damage in that previous bout. 2 minutes left though, Garpy can still come back in it. Use that skill bear to full advantage if you can, but the problem is, look at it so far as Maxter does have 2 totems up already. He's got a third one coming up soon. He's already picked up the Mega, so the overstack's not really going to be beneficial as of yet. It will be now though if he does get hit with a rail once again. He's going to use it straight away, perfectly understandable. He only needed another 40 anyway. He's now literally just after him at the moment, just trying to put the pressure and continue putting the pressure on. So this is completely different. Like you said, Garpy, you know, has been a little bit more out of a defensive posture, was trying to be a bit more reactionary as we previously mentioned, but now a little bit different. Garpy has to force the situation to happen.
Yeah.
He's still got a minute left, but I don't know how he's going to go about this.
He's got no items, the overstack's there. I mean, he's taken out 1 totem, but there's another one up in a second. Garpy's going to have to bull rush through to get this through, but that also means he misses the bull rush for the next crucial fight. Maxter's just going to slow this tempo down. He's got a good enough stack to play. Doesn't need to go on the outreach, but he also can't afford to let Garpy pick up this Mega for free. Amazing rail to come on through and cut Garpy there. Drops the totem in case he needs it, but he's done his due diligence. Garpy's going to have to contest it to try and do something.
Oh, he's trying to clean up.
Yeah, it's just click and hope at that point. You know, you're praying someone walks into a rocket, and that rocket never came. 30 seconds in this will be a 2-0 for the Argentinian.
And you spoke about it as well, because he used the bull rush to contest a heavy earlier on, he couldn't use it again to contest a Mega, could he? And it wasn't like he went for any hourglasses in between. He had to go for the Mega first. He had to prioritise that. But sadly for him, it wasn't going to be the case. So some desperate measures here is going to be coming out here. Garpy if you can, but it's too little too late. He can just sit on these totems all day if he likes and just try and bait himself out to try and push him forward. But great defense here from Maxter. Will get taken down, I assume, eventually, but looks like Garpy won't be able to clean him up. And that is going to be it. Maxter's going to take this series as well, 6-4. Different style of play in comparison. It's a shame that for Garpy, he played a little bit differently with a scale bear. Not something you normally see with that champion especially, but at the end of the day, it was a much better showing compared to that first map.
Just makes you think, like, why is it night and day? Like, why is there so much difference map 1 to map 2? but there was. The game plan was a lot more effective, but there was just that critical turning point in the middle, and you could feel the momentum shifting into Maxter's corner, and Garpy, you said it, was reactionary. He couldn't find a way to break that kite, almost just kind of kite Maxter around the map. But when you're doing that, you're almost hoping to hit a miracle shot. You're hoping that Maxter's going to overextend and jump into a full rocket, which allows you to convert. But Maxter didn't do that. He kept his distance. He played smart. He realized that he wasn't going to chase around a corner, because that was the only way Garpy was going to get into the game. He kept the pressure on. He kept the items rotation. I think it was about 2 or 3 rotations, and then he found an in. And from there on out, Garpy was kind of scrambling to get back into the game.
Yeah, it was a real shame. Of course, that ball rush you're talking about right at the very end, you could say he needed to. I didn't really take too much damage when he picked up the heavy. I think he only lost about 32 damage, but that's not the point. He wanted to use it for that initial fight, wasn't it? Not just the item contention in any way, shape or form. But it was very tough to see, because we've seen some players do that in the past. You know, you've got the lead, you want to keep the pressure on, and that's exactly what Maxter did. When he got up straight afterwards, it could have been a completely different story if Garpy was putting that pressure on consistently, keeping up that aggression, because that's what you need to do with the scale bearer. But we're going to take a look at the bracket now quickly, just to keep you guys updated with exactly the whereabouts of what's been happening. If you're just joining us here, anyways, as already Wenger and Wolf played earlier on, Wenger made that swiftly 2-0, and already straight afterwards we did have Garpy taken down here by Maxter, as Maxter, you know, first map, you know, it was, you know, whitewash, wasn't it? You know, I hate to say it, but it was considering the start that Garpy had. But yeah, Garpy put up a much better fight in that second map, but still Maxter was able to take it.
It's a good showing, and like we said, it's a disciplined showing from Maxter. It wasn't this super aggressive balls to the wall, as we said. It was disciplined, and that puts him in a good position. He's going to come up against Wenger, not today, it will be tomorrow, I believe. So that's going to be a real good game, because we saw, again, the two sides of Wenger in that series. It was a toughly fought map 1. Wolf put up an amazing performance in map 1. Very similar to this series. Map 2 was a whitewash, just in reverse. Avec Buxter's next, my friend. That's what I like to see. Avec Buxter is going to be great. And to introduce that match, let's go back to Ryan, where he can just recap us here.
Of course, the weekend. You can find it on Maestro Live. There is a B stream for the matches that aren't going to be in winners. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But I mean, Avec versus Buxter, there's lots to break down here, as there is for every match. But Avic's always been a people's champion, but seen as one of the strongest players in the world right now. I think a lot of people are expecting him to be maybe the winner of this matchup. But Buxter, a player that had to qualify his way into Iron Fist to begin with. And rather than breaking all of it down right now, we'll leave it for a few minutes as we'll cut to break, and when we return, that matchup in Iron Fist will continue.